But the endocrine system doesn't work completely independently of the nervous system. Two structures in the brain help communicate between the two systems of relaying information. The hypothalamus is a structure on the underside of the brain. It serves as a communicator between the nervous system and the endocrine system, and is the main regulatory part of the brain. It works in close association with the pituitary gland, an endocrine gland that is regulated by secretions from the hypothalamus. With that input from the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland secretes many different hormones, many of which help regulate the rest of the endocrine system. The pituitary gland is actually two glands fused together, so it's made up of two parts. The posterior pituitary is very fibrous because it contains a lot of nervous tissue. It doesn't produce any of its own hormones, but it releases hormones that are produced by endocrine cells in the hypothalamus. The anterior pituitary does produce and release its own hormones. Many of these are important for regulating other endocrine glands throughout the body. Now pause and answer these two questions from Participation Assignment 17. The posterior pituitary releases a wide range of hormones. One you may have heard of is oxytocin, which is sometimes called the cuddle hormone or the trust hormone. It's released when we feel connected to other people and is involved in bonding. Interestingly, it's also involved in stimulating contractions during birth and the release of milk. Another hormone produced by the posterior pituitary is antidiuretic hormone, which regulates water retention by the kidneys, influencing the concentration of urine. Here are some more examples of hormones produced by the anterior pituitary. Thyroid-stimulating hormones, which regulates our thyroid. Follicle-stimulating hormone in the reproductive system. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, which stimulates the adrenal glands to release adrenaline, and growth hormones, which trigger growth of bones and other tissues. You don't need to memorize all these hormones, but what I want you to notice is how many of the pituitary hormones play a role in regulating other endocrine glands, which then release their own hormones. Because the pituitary gland is so important for the regulation of our bodies, its malfunction can have drastic results. For example, some forms of dwarfism or gigantism are caused by the pituitary gland releasing too much or too little growth hormone. We can take advantage of this in animals by artificially changing hormone levels to get different results. If anyone here has a pet reptile, you may have fed it mealworms or superworms. Most people think superworms are a different species, but actually they are just mealworms that have been treated with a hormone that causes them to grow larger. Some insect growth hormones can even be used as pesticides because they prevent the larva from developing into an adult, so it can't reproduce. There are many other glands throughout the body that help regulate our internal environment and allow us to respond to stimuli. And again, many of these are regulated by the pituitary gland. Let's go through each of these. The pineal gland, which is located in the brain, is important for sleep. In response to dark, it releases melatonin, causing us to get sleepy. The thyroid gland releases thyroxine, which regulates our cellular metabolism. So it regulates the rate of cellular respiration in our cells. So if your thyroid is overactive or underactive, your metabolism may speed up or slow down. The parathyroid gland, located near the thyroid, regulates the level of calcium in your blood. The adrenal glands release adrenaline and cortisol in response to stress and danger. They prime the body to respond. The pancreas is both an organ and a gland. It releases insulin and glucagon to regulate blood sugar levels. And finally, we have the reproductive glands, or the gonads, which release sex steroids. In females, the gonads are ovaries, and in males, they are testes. The gonads release sex steroids that regulate many different things, including fertility, sexual behavior, and growth and development. We all know that when we talk about steroids as drugs, they are often talked about as performance-enhancing drugs. And that's because steroids can have a major impact on physique and physical performance. When someone takes steroids, what they are actually doing is increasing those sex hormones in their body. Testosterone is commonly abused in this way because it has many effects such as increasing lean muscle mass, improving speed and stamina, and reducing the production of fat storage cells. So it can lead to increased growth and muscle mass. But of course, supplemental steroids can be dangerous. While testosterone may improve your athletic ability, it also has some major consequences. When testosterone is increased, it also triggers an increase in estrogen, which can alter sexual characteristics. This is why some men who take testosterone sometimes develop breasts. Testosterone can also increase the risk of heart disease, cause liver and kidney damage, and cause behavioral changes. Testosterone affects the mood as well as the body. It can create a sense of euphoria, overconfidence, and increased energy. However, it can also cause anger and aggression. Estrogen can also affect mood in both males and females. Drastic changes in estrogen levels can trigger depression. Some of these drastic changes do happen normally, such as when estrogen rapidly increases at puberty. The rapid decrease in estrogen is tied to postpartum depression after giving birth, as well as depression during menopause. Cortisol is another hormone that can affect our moods. Again, cortisol is released by the adrenal glands in response to stress or danger. But it's not only released in life or death situations. It can also be released in response to something stressful like taking an exam or having social anxiety. Having too much cortisol can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and depression. Now pause and answer this question. We like to think we're in complete control of our behavior, but the truth is our hormones play a big role. We have explored the effects of different hormones by artificially increasing or decreasing them in animal models in the lab. For example, mice that are bred to not produce estrogen exhibit obsessive-compulsive behaviors. Male birds given supplemental testosterone were more attractive to females and produced more offspring. However, they also spent less time caring for their offspring, so fewer survived. And these high testosterone males also had shorter lifespans. Because we know that hormones can play a role in behavior, this has led to a controversial debate about whether aggressive sexual behavior can or should be regulated by altering offenders' hormones. Because testosterone regulates aggression and sexual behavior, some people have proposed that violent sex offenders should be physically or chemically castrated. Over 40% of sex offenders reoffend after they are released from prison. However, we don't actually have enough data to conclusively say what the effects of castration are on violent sexual behavior. Hormones can also affect our overall health and longevity. If you remember, the birds in the study we mentioned earlier didn't live as long when they received extra testosterone. It turns out the same is true in cats. Sterilized male cats live an average of 3.5 years longer than unaltered male cats. And that difference is even greater in outdoor cats. probably because unaltered males are more likely to engage in aggressive and risky behavior that might get them hurt. And we even see this effect in humans. Sterilized male humans live longer on average than non-sterilized males. Hormones can also be affected by chemicals in the environment, especially when those chemicals mimic or block hormones in the body. These types of chemicals that interfere with the function of hormones and the endocrine system are known as endocrine disruptors. One famous example is DDT, which is an insecticide that used to be very widely used. However, DDT acts as an endocrine disruptor in birds, causing them to produce thin, weak eggshells that are likely to crack. DDT was responsible for a massive decline in bald eagle populations, starting in the 1800s and lasting until the 1970s. Since DDT was banned in 1972, the bald eagle population has steadily increased. Now answer a few more questions before you finish the video.